Okay, well, good evening. Sorry, we had some connectivity issues here, so thank you for coming out this evening. So if you thought that this was just a gathering in the park, it is not. Well, it is, but it's not. We are having an opportunity, so as many of you know, we are interviewing for the new city manager for the city of Canby, and we've got 3 really good candidates here tonight that we've been putting through the interview gauntlet today. So we're going to invite them up. So if I can have the 3 gentlemen join me up here, I would appreciate that. So I'll take a moment here and we'll do introductions, and then I'm going to put them on the spot with 2 questions. So how this is going to work is we'll just do a brief introduction, give each candidate here an opportunity to introduce themselves and a little bit about themselves, and then they're going to station themselves at a couple of tables so that then you can come up and take an opportunity to talk with them and get to know them. After you have done that, over here we have a table with some comment cards, so if you wouldn't mind, please jot your thoughts down and your comments about each candidate, because then the council is going to get together after this, go through those and have a conversation about the 3 candidates. So let me introduce who we've got today. We've got Randy Robertson. He's in town from the beautiful state of Maryland. Give him a round of applause. We have Brian Bossert, who's in from Texas. And then Scott Archer, he traveled the furthest. He's over here in Clackamas. So, gentlemen, the 2 questions I have for you to answer after you get up and give yourself an introduction is, 1, what is your most embarrassing moment? Just flat out, doesn't have to, what's your most embarrassing moment? And then the second piece is, this is probably a question from your interview today, is as Canby grows and as you've driven around and seen that growth, how will you as the city manager help maintain its quaint feel and that small town feel as we continue to grow? So 1 real easy question, how do you help us grow and stay small? And then the harder question, most embarrassing moment. So, who wants to go first? Great, Scott Archer, since he's A. We'll go there. Don't forget to introduce your significant other.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. I'm Scott Archer, and I want to introduce my wife, Tammy Archer, who is right here to my right, waving. My lovely bride of 30 years as of about 3 weeks ago. And yes, as the mayor said, I am the local guy of the candidates. I have spent the majority of my life in Clackamas County, and probably most of that within about a 15 to 20 minute drive of this town. So I do very much appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, council members and staff and community members who were also gracious today with the interview panels, and it wasn't too painful. I've been in local government work for about 29 years. About 21 of those years have been in leadership or executive positions. I'm currently with the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. I'm the director of that special district with Clackamas County. It's a large service district, and yes, just a little ways up the road here. Just real quickly, I'm very excited about this opportunity. My wife and I have been recently become empty nesters. We have 3 children, ages 27, 25, and 21. And our youngest is about to go into his senior year of college. And in that process, we've been looking at downsizing our house that we have currently in Oregon City on the south end, just literally about a 13-minute drive from where we're at right now. And in that process, we were looking at Canby specifically before this job ever became something that I was looking at. So not only am I very interested in this professional opportunity, but it just so happens that it aligns very, very closely with something that Tammy and I had been looking at, which is exploring some housing options here when we sell our house. And so whether I'm your city administrator or not, we may be part of your community, so you may be stuck with us one way or another, and that's okay with us. We're happy to spend time we love coming into Canby, walking around town, visiting the restaurants and shops and all that. So that's my quick introduction. And then the mayor's questions. Boy, I wish I could think of something more creative than this. Most embarrassing, I suppose. I suppose I'll just say one of the more embarrassing things was on the golf course, playing with some people, and one of my playing partners was standing just a little bit ahead of me and off to my side, but it was to the side that my club was opening to, and I hit possibly the worst golf shot of my life, and I hit a zinger probably going 100 miles an hour and hit this guy right in the chest, and I thought I'd killed him. I thought I probably stopped his heart, but fortunately he's a big tough guy, and I didn't kill him. But it was a pretty embarrassing moment. That's about as bad as I can think of on the quick, Mayor. In terms of your second question, yes, when I was looking at this position, and one of the things that has attracted Tammy and I to the idea of living in Canby, even again before the job, but now since I've delved in further with the process of going through the interviews and meeting folks and being a candidate, is I really do see that keeping the livability and the small town charm and just a really great sense of community, which is why so many people want to be here or already live here, or people like us that are looking to move here want to be here, but growth is going to happen. So if I were the city administrator and had the fortune to be in that position, my approach to that would be this. You have to have good, thoughtful planning. You have to do it in a way that involves the community, involves people that really have large investments in this community, people that live here, that have been here for a long time, or maybe even for a short time. But you have to have good processes, which of course we have land use laws in Oregon that sort of dictate some of that anyway. But good, thoughtful planning with the city council, with the planning commission, with other folks in the community. I really have sensed strongly the sense that this town in particular has about knowing that growth is going to happen, but being very sort of cautiously wary of that, but at the same time, growth will happen, and so instead of fight it, you can work with it and get ahead of it. The other part of the growth is the commercial development that the city is doing a great job out on the north end of town. Driven through the industrial sites a number of times previously, and we got another tour there today. There's some really good commercial development occurring that I think will be beneficial over time, which adds obviously living wage jobs come with those, but also the increased tax base that the businesses are paying, which enhances the quality of life for the people that live here and allows the city to have some additional revenues to do good things for quality of life. So that's, I think, my answer to that question, and would look forward to chatting with any of you, and also want to thank the other two candidates and commend them, and just say thanks for coming out.
As the mayor, good evening, everyone. And as the mayor said, my name is Brian Bossart. First, I want to say thank you for this opportunity to be here and experience the place of Canby. And as the mayor said, they did put us through the gauntlet today. So, but it was a good afternoon, getting to know the staff, getting to know council better, and also the community panel as well. But just a little bit about myself. I am the son of a Methodist minister, and I grew up in Minnesota, living in several small towns not dissimilar to the city of Canby. So I grew up in a small town much like Canby. I'm fighting a motorcycle right now, but that's okay. Early in my career, I recognized and I realized that I think I developed a passion for public service from my father, because there's such a tie between the work we do in local government, serving the public from City Hall, just as my father was serving the public from his church, from his pulpit. And I think that was my first entry into public service, what got me interested into it, and then where the passion really came from in terms of serving the community. I've got experience working for cities the same size as Canby, small towns. I have experience working for a large community going through phenomenal growth, 250,000 plus population. So like the rest of the other two candidates, we all bring a varied level of experience to the job. My wife Marie is with me today. We drove up from Texas, which was a very interesting drive. We got here, well, first off, we went through Arizona to give my wife an opportunity to see Mom for the first time since the pandemic, and then on here to Canby. We spent Sunday and Monday driving all through this place, all through the community, just to get a sense of your city. We actually then left the community, went out into some of the other adjacent areas just to get a sense of how Canby sits in the region itself as well. And I think what we're struck by is the unique sense of place that's here, the unique sense of community that exists. The research I've been doing about a lot of the input that the public has given to the city, there's an important aspect of community there, and that's what attracts me to this position. That's what attracts me to potentially living in your community in the city of Canby. I think we share some common values about the importance behind that work we do in local government. It's about service. You know, it's more than just the services we provide. In the end, it's about building better communities. It's about building a better Canby in the end. It's about creating hometown memories for the folks who live here. And when you think about our work from that perspective, it's an awesome responsibility that we have working for the community itself. So that's a lot about why I'm very much interested in this role and what you have happening here in the city of Canby. My most embarrassing moments. So I worked for the city of Chandler, Arizona, and they had a campus. We had a private office building we were housed out of, and then planning and development was down of, maybe as far as that clinic is away. It was lined with, the walkway was lined with trees. And I was walking down the walkway going to a committee meeting with the city council. And I brushed under some of the trees and didn't really think much about it. Now, I kind of have a aversion to bugs. And so I get to the meeting, and I sit down around the conference table. I got multiple council members all around me. And I kind of feel this kind of coming up my back. And I threw it down on the ground, and it was a beetle about this big, and I took my big book I had in front of me and went whack, and I whacked it. And all these council members look at me and go, "What are you doing over there, Mr. Bossart?" So there's my most embarrassing moment. How do we keep the quaintness of Canby? I agree completely with Scott. It's about sound planning principles as we move forward. But when we're talking specifically about how you keep that small town feel and how you keep the quaintness, a lot of that is reaching out to all of you. What is it specifically about this community that we want to maintain? Do we, the city, have an understanding of what that is? And once we have that understanding, it's working with all of you to ensure we make that happen. New residents will be moving into the community. We have to provide the services that they need as new residents, but we certainly cannot forget about the folks that made this community what it is. So in order to keep that quaint feel, in order to keep that small town feel, it's being transparent about the growth, and it's about reaching out to all of you to ensure that we're putting in place the services that will help us keep that quaint feel moving forward as that growth happens. So thank you again for this opportunity. And I look forward to getting to meet as many of you I can during the rest of this meet and greet. So thank you.
Hello, Canby. My name is Randy Robertson. I'm the one from Maryland right now. That beautiful lady, where are you, darling? Where'd you disappear to? You were somewhere. There she is. You were hiding behind the police there. That's my bride. I think our anniversary, August the 6th. 2 days off. So we got a few more years than Scott, too. And we survived 40-something, but I won't get too far into details. I believe in the power of stories. And I like the question the mayor was asking about your most embarrassing one. I wouldn't relate it necessarily as embarrassing, but awkward maybe, or depends on your perspective. Most of my adult life, for 30 years, Darlene and I were both retired Army officers. Between being in the Army or with the Army as civilians, we have 55 or 60 years between us. I was commissioned in 1976 out of Fort Riley, Kansas, and we actually drove from Fort Riley to find the first place that would marry us, and that's Memphis, Tennessee. Imagine going to Memphis to get married. But that wasn't the embarrassing thing, because I had been ready to be a soldier, and again, this is post-Vietnam. Really excited about it. I delayed for a while to get a graduate degree and stayed out. And so I finally had to go. And I got my notice from the MEP station that says you have to go to Nashville and take your physical. I was living in rural Kentucky at grad school. So Darlene says, I'll go with you. We were married for maybe just a few months. We box ourselves up and go down to downtown Nashville. And it's a gorgeous city. It's as good then as it is now. It's just a tremendous place to be. And found the MEP station pre-global positioning. And I went in and did my physical. And when I got back out, and I've never told this publicly, have I? When I got back out, she wasn't there. She had disappeared. I told it privately, but well, I sat out in the lobby and no one seemed to know, and finally there was, I think, a sergeant or corporal come by and he said, "Sir, are you looking for someone?" And I said, "My wife came with me. I can't find her." "Oh, is she the nurse?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, she's in the back with the recruiter." So while I was doing my physical, at the end of that, my bride comes back and she says, "You know what? Since you got to go in, I'm going to go in too." I thought, well, that's great. What are they going to have you do? Maybe, a aide or something like that? She's a nurse. And she said, "Guess what, Randy?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "I'm going to get a direct commission." Now, any of you who served in the military know what I'm talking about. Not the rest of us who had to work our way up. "I'm going to get a direct commission." "Wow, Lieutenant Robertson, congratulations." "No, Randy, guess what? I'm getting a direct commission to captain with a date of rank of about 4 years in service." I was highly embarrassed, a little agitated, like I had worked real hard to do this for a long time. But then as I got over it, and again, this was back in the late 70s when not everybody, today it's a little different, but not a lot of married military with military. But I tell you that only if, by sake, we all get to know each other better in this process, is Darlene has outranked me, both physically and from the federal government, from the day that we met. She got colonel. She's a wonderful nurse. I'm so proud of her. And we've stuck together for 40-something years when sometimes we were at opposite ends of the world. And she served America's soldiers very well. So obviously I look at myself as a soldier, but that stopped for me. At some point in time, everybody has to stop. And it stopped for me in 2006, and I retired. And I went on to become a city manager in a town called Ashland, Kentucky. And I learned a whole lot. That was one of my questions today, is not your most embarrassing moment, but what was the most difficult time you had with one of the councils. And I learned then that be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. And I took this job because I wanted it. They had asked for someone with leadership skills and all of that. But I took it without a contract. And that wasn't the wisest thing to do in the world. So I learned a lot from my very first assignment. Wasn't necessarily that embarrassing, our relationship, certainly, but it was embarrassing. The postlude is everywhere I've gone, she continues to outrank me. Why Canby? And I originally am spent a lot of time in rural Kentucky, Appalachian area. And if you're familiar with that side of the coast, pretty poor, very rural. And in fact, the town where my parents grew up and their parents grew up If you look on the map today, it may be gone. Well, I got the privilege of being on a farm, raised on a farm, to at least in the summers, to a large extent, and I learned a lot about the values of working the land and working cows, working animals, and all that. So why do I tell you that? Is I couldn't applaud you more, Canby, and the leaders of Canby. You've done a remarkable job because, and I've only been here for 36 hours, this blend of rural agriculture, of growth, of new houses, you've got it down, from what I can tell, very, very well. And I go back to what Scott said. That's that vision that you've empowered the council with to see how are we going to do this and do it right. How can we put this piece together? Because if you don't grow, you will become redundant. You will be like my small hometown of 50 years ago. You will also become like Ashland, Kentucky, who is at one point in time the 4th largest city in Kentucky, and now it's under 19,000. They've lost all their industry. They're struggling mightily. So I think the vision that you have here of how do we accommodate each one of you and do it in a transparent way is what I've been most excited about, and the opportunity to come here. And finally, as you can tell, I'm probably the most mature, not in terms of my abilities by any stretch, but in terms of chronological age than my colleagues to the rear here. Well, what has that afforded me and why? I've been a city manager since the day I left the Army, basically, and I've managed 5 cities. And I think the breadth of serving downrange, of serving in Europe, I was the chief of staff of the largest Army installation in the world, White Sands Missile Range, thousands of people. But you're still the city manager. You still have hospitals and fire departments and police departments. So I tell you that is because I think that breadth of experience may be something that I could be value added to you. Now, today in my meeting with the council, we started going through dates. I forget dates sometime because I have moved. But those moves have happened over a decade and a half. So I think I could do well with you, and I'm really excited about the possibilities of working your long-range plans because I think you're spot on. So good luck and God bless.
All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. So I think Mr. Archer, you're over here. Mr. Robertson, you are here. And Mr. Bossart, you are over here. So if you guys want to go take a table, please come on up and take a moment and introduce yourselves and ask them the questions maybe that we didn't ask today. So appreciate everyone being here. Like I said, when you're done, please fill out your comment cards over here, and we'll be reviewing them here this evening. So thank you very much.